Well, we all knew a loss was probably coming at some point in conference play. Didn't think it would happen at home. Welcome into this special live edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm Zach Blackerby, your host, joined by the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend. Auburn falls to Florida at home. The 6th-ranked Florida Gators, 90-81. And honestly, like, the score is probably a little closer than how the game actually was, Darrell.
Absolutely. You know, Auburn got out to a 10-point lead, and then Florida just absolutely went on a really incredible run. So a few things just to kind of keep this in perspective. First of all, what you said at the beginning of the show is exactly right. I mean, this is a conference where if anybody thinks you're not going to lose 3 or 4 games and still be considered a really, really good basketball team, it's not realistic, okay? So did I think it was going to be this one? No. I actually thought it was going to be at Ole Miss. So Auburn got a little bit. I thought at home against a Florida team that looked terrible on the road against Tennessee without one of their best players in Martin and their best player being a little bit hampered. It just goes to show you anything can happen in college basketball. But that's the beauty about college basketball. This isn't football. The season's not over. This is one of 10 at this point, but what you got to give Florida credit. I mean, that's the first thing. Florida came in.
They're a good basketball team,
and they played well. They played well, and and Auburn did not play. I don't think they played poorly, but I think they played very mediocre. Okay, so you're not going to win against the 6th team in the country playing average, and that's what happened. But what you don't want to have happen, Zach, and what scares me or worries me is, and what could be an issue, is you don't want this one loss to become a 2-loss game, meaning it bleeds over or it leaks into the Vanderbilt game. That Vanderbilt game Tuesday night becomes very, very important because with playing Alabama on the road the following Saturday, Auburn is staring down, and I'm not predicting anything, and I'm not being doom and gloom. I'm just saying if you want to win the conference, you can't afford a 3-game losing streak. And Auburn, if they don't right the ship and kind of put this behind them and bounce back from this and use it as a wake-up call, use all the cliches you want to use, and come back with a nice performance Tuesday at Vanderbilt, there could be a carryover effect, and that's what you want to avoid.
Maybe. I think – I don't know. I think after losing this one, I feel better at Alabama now, actually. There's a chance that Alabama's ranked ahead of us in that game now.
Well, let's see what happens tonight. That's
sure.
Why, let's be honest, as an Auburn fan, a lot of Auburn fans root against Alabama anyway. This goes beyond the rivalry. This is conference first place implications tonight. So you better be hoping that Arkansas continues to play well and holds holds the home court advantage and wins tonight, because if they don't, watch out. But if Alabama drops one tonight, which would be their 2nd loss, Auburn goes into comes out of the weekend still in sole possession of first place.
Sure. I mean, they're gonna have to split with Bama and then take care of business elsewhere. So I don't know. It obviously helps if Bama loses a few, but I don't know if I'm banking on them losing to Arkansas, but we'll see. So one of the things, I think you and I talked about it. If not, I know I talked about it on Village Vice with Brad, but this was a crazy weekend where there were a lot of ranked teams on the road. Yeah. And they weren't all going to win. And we had that conversation almost assuming Florida would be one of the ones that lost.
I called it Separation Saturday prematurely because I thought there could be some teams that lost on the road that were right behind Auburn. And that's not how, that's the thing about college basketball. It's unpredictable. But look, I get the whole thing that you've got to split. And again, this isn't about making it about Alabama. This is about making it who's right behind you, breathing down your throat.
Yeah, they're the second team. They're right behind you in the SEC standings. Yeah.
The fact that it's your rival has nothing
and you play
to
them
do
twice.
with it. And you play them twice. So if you could fill in the blank, if it was Kentucky, Tennessee, whoever – was behind Auburn in 2nd place with tied. Well, now they're tied in 1st. You would want them to get that 2nd loss tonight. So a lot of basketball left. I said after Auburn's non-conference slate, when they went into the conference season, that Auburn could win the conference going 14-4 in the conference. and that's still right there for the taking. Now, obviously, it depends on what happens around you, but it's that good of a league.
Yeah, I think if you go 14-4, I don't think you win it. I don't think you win it if you go 14-4.
The reason why I think you do is because if Auburn, as good as they are, has 4 conference losses, and I still think they're the best team in the SEC, don't pay attention to one game or one loss thinking that it dictates or defines the whole season. I still think Auburn's the best team in the conference. If the best team in the conference loses 4 games, what are the other teams around you going to do? That's all I'm saying. And if they're not, then that would prove itself out. If Auburn goes 14-4 and someone else goes 15-3, then they weren't the best team in the conference. I mean, I just think it's too hard. Look at Florida. Florida had what, 3 losses or 4 conference losses going into this game, and they're ranked 6th in the country. I mean, Tennessee has 4 losses. They look good today. Any given night, teams, we said the SEC was going to beat the crap out of each other. If that holds true to form and they beat the crap out of each other, 14-4 should win it.
Yeah, this is a tough loss for sure, but not because of the opponent, because of the fact that it's at home. I mean, Florida's a great team. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, the line came out at 9.5, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, that is insane. I thought Auburn was going to win a close game, and they lost a game that 9 points. It didn't feel like we lost by 9 today. It felt like we lost by more than that.
The variables sometimes you can point to, and we always tend to focus on Auburn because that's the team we cover. What did Auburn not do? What could have Auburn done better? What was wrong? I get that. Those are there. Those talking points are there. But at the end of the day, I think it was more about what Florida did and how they showed up without one of their best players on the road and shot the basketball in the first half about as good as you could shoot it. And that turned out to be the reason why they won the game. I mean, I get it. Auburn only lost 9, and they were down 10 at halftime. So there really wasn't that big of a spread. But Florida won that game with the way they set the tone. Florida was 16-0, now 17-0 when leading at halftime. So that when you get Florida is when they come out and they stink it up in the first half like they did in their losses. When they didn't and they went up double digits, it's going to be a very tough hill to climb because, like I said, they were 16-0. Now, on the Auburn side, Broom's 18 points were a little bit of a paper tiger on that. I don't think he played particularly well. And 2 kids that have been very instrumental in getting Auburn to where they are right now. So you cannot, you don't want to beat up on that. But Denver Jones and Chad Baker-Mazara combining for 9 points, I think really hurt Auburn. Miles Kelly stepped up. 8 points. Yeah, Miles Kelly stepped up. Chaney Johnson stepped up. Pettiford stepped up. But Chad Baker-Mazara and Denver Jones have been 2 key cogs in the wheel. And when those spokes are broke, it's going to be difficult. And that's not going to happen that often. Let's make no mistake that that's not going to be a trend. It just happened today.
Right. And
it was coupled with Florida playing really, really elite at the guard position.
Yeah, we haven't had one of these games from Denver in a minute. 0 for 4 from the floor. We haven't had one of these from Denver in a minute. So
and he didn't do a very good job defensively. So, I mean, again,
this wasn't a good game for Denver.
This kid played really, really well all year. He's due to have – everyone's due to have a game. Auburn played one of those games that you call the quadrant 3, where you got, a third of the games you play really, really well, a third of the games you play good enough to win, and then there's some where it's not your night. And they have been winning some games where they haven't been playing particularly well. This was not their night. The opponent took advantage of that because the opponent played at a real high level. And, I mean, free throws, look what Florida did from the free throw line. I mean, Auburn actually had more free throw chances than Florida, so you can't complain about the way the game was called. But Florida took advantage of their free throw. What was Florida's statistics free throw-wise? 18 of –
You got it.
No, I was guessing. I thought it was 18 of 21 maybe.
15 of 18 is what it looks like. Yeah,
okay.
15 of 18.
And then Auburn was what from the line?
Let me go back to Auburn. They were 14 of 23.
So you shoot, 5 more free throws, and you can't really capitalize on that. Obviously, Florida made a lot more threes, which was the difference in the game. Auburn, let's call a spade a spade. If you would have told me that Auburn would have scored 81 points, I'd have said they won by 10. Okay. Florida gave up 81 to Auburn at home. That should be enough to win. Auburn did a horrible job defensively. Whether that's Florida or whether that's Auburn, I don't know, but you can't give up 90 points at home. Period.
No, you can't. You can't. Especially with, how good you've been defensively the entire time. I want to talk about Janai Broom, and I also want to talk about a narrative that's popped up. And I've seen Auburn folks say it both during the game, before the game, and even in our live chat here. But also, I've seen other fans say it too, and I don't know if I fully buy it, but I want your thoughts on it. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're the official sportsbook of Super Bowl 59. We love all the prop bets for the Super Bowl. Over-under on the national anthem. Is the coin toss heads or tails? You can bet on all of these props at every single aspect of the game. What's the first commercial going to be? FanDuel is the place to do all of that. And right now, you can bet $5, and if that first $5 bet hits, you get $200 in bonus bets. That's all at FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel. They're the official partner of Super Bowl 59 and, of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. You mentioned it. Like Janai Broom, when you look at his total points and the stats from tonight, 18 points, 11 rebounds, like a solid double-double. Not efficient, 8 of 19. And just the eye test of all of this, though, it's like he didn't play his best game. And then they were zooming in on him when he was on the sideline, and it's just, he didn't really seem into it. He didn't really seem into the game. Normally he's a lot more passionate, a lot more energetic. And this wasn't the same Janai Broom that we've seen pretty much every other game this year.
The 18 points, to put in perspective, should have been 24 points. The 9 of 18 from the field is because he missed a lot of bunnies around the rim. He missed way too many easy shots. So if you just make 3 more and you go 12 of 18, which isn't lighting it up, you score 24 points. And that 24 looks a lot better. So, again, and those 6 points could have been a difference maker. I know that at one point during the game, even though Auburn got down by as much as, 20 or whatever it was, they had a chance with the ball down 9, went to the basket, got fouled, no call. Florida comes down, hits a 3, and that's a 5-point swing. Now, Auburn, that's not why Auburn lost the game, because they shouldn't have got themselves in a position where they got down 20. But that goes to show you it's indicative of when it's not your night. You could have cut it to 7 and had all the momentum, and you blink and it's double digits again. That's what Auburn has been doing to opponents all year.
Yeah.
When they get close and feel like they have a little bit of life, Auburn's been flipping the script, and Florida did it today.
Yeah, they did it. It stinks that happened at home. It stinks that it happens to you at any point, but Auburn's going to be okay. All right, so there's this narrative. There's actually 2 narratives I want to discuss. One is, we are clearly a football fan base because we lose one game, and it's just like, oh, we're going to lose to Bama, the season's over. Somebody said that in the comments just a second ago. It's like, hold on. Auburn still has had the toughest schedule in college basketball, and their 2 losses are to about to be #1 Duke, and Florida might be number 3 or number 4 when this is all said and done. So, hold on. Hold on just for a second here before you say, oh, my goodness, Auburn's about to go on this losing streak. That's not what we've seen. They responded well to the loss against Duke. I think they're going to beat Vanderbilt, and then we'll see what happens, at Tuscaloosa. But they've got a tough stretch. But every time we do the whole, and we'll do it in a second, predict Auburn's next 5 games, it's like, okay, this is a tough stretch. We say it every time. We say it every time because that's the nature of the SEC this year. So, guys, it's be frustrated. Be frustrated because the team that you love and care for and cheer for lost. I'm bummed by it too. But let's hold on. This team is still elite, and let's don't lose sight of that.
It's perspective. They're 20-2. They've lost 2 games. One to Duke, who by the way has lost 2 games,
right?
And one to Florida, who played out of their minds and is going to be a top 5 team. When people make the comments about, oh, they're going to lose to Alabama, people seem to forget Alabama lost by double digits to Ole Miss at home, but yet they're supposed to be the greatest thing. So, they've lost 2 games on the year, or maybe 3. But anyway, I think that it's perspective because it's recency bias. You have the taste in your mouth of what just happened, and you don't expect to have it happen at home. I think that's the difference. That's why people maybe are jumping off a cliff a little bit. What you don't want to have,
this is in Gainesville, it definitely feels different.
completely different. And if even in a neutral floor Auburn lost at Duke, but if they would have lost in the Maui tournament to Iowa State, it wouldn't have been the end of the world either. So, but I will say this: you got to keep this from snowball, and that's what I think people are a little bit afraid of, or doom and gloom, or thinking the worst is. Could it snowball? Could it? Because Vanderbilt is not an easy place to win. It's just not.
No question.
So you have to take care of
top teams this year, for sure.
You got to take care of business.
Yep. The other narrative I want to discuss, and we've seen it a bunch. I saw it before the game. I've seen it, before other games as well. And this guy just said it. This Aiden Doyle just said it. There's so many fans that say, "Oh, this team needed to lose, or a loss would be good for the Tigers." And I just have a hard time getting in that mindset that a loss is ever good. The pressure, the win streak, the chasing history stuff. Like, I've always been in the mindset, like, pressure is a privilege. And I think these guys would have rather had the pressure with less losses than actually losing at home to Florida. So I've seen that a bunch of places. That Aiden Doyle's not the only one to say that. And I get it. I just don't agree.
Let me give you a scenario where Aiden could be 100% correct.
Please.
I don't know if this is the case, but if you start to read and believe your own press clippings, and you start to get bad habits because you're winning and you think you're a little bit invincible, then it can recalibrate you to play the type of basketball you need to play down the stretch. It's a wake-up call. It's a kick in the shorts. If you are doing that, if that loss is because of lack of effort or lack of focus or picking up bad habits. I don't know that. The coaches will when they watch film. If that's the case, this does get you recalibrated. And what if you lost this game because you were starting to form some bad habits and you showed some things that were some flaws, and this game exposed those and you get them corrected, and that helps you and down the stretch and actually gets you to beat Alabama, which you correct
is crazy.
No, I think you can still. I've always said there's teachable moments in a win too. I mean, we've talked. It's better to learn those lessons in a win. I'm just saying sometimes kids are kids. They get a little bit with their chest puffed out. They start to believe their own press clippings. And a loss like this grounds them, recalibrates them. And if that helps you go on a 3 or 4 or 5 game win streak, if you swap this a win Saturday in Tuscaloosa, who knows? I'm just saying it could. I don't know the answer to that because we can't get in their heads and in their hearts and figure out if they did start to believe they were a little bit invincible and this kind of. If it exposed some things that they get corrected and only a loss could do that, who knows?
Yeah. The split of the fan base saying, "Oh, we needed a loss. This is good for us," or "The season's over because we lost." It's fascinating. Like, it's a totally fascinating fan base that we are certainly a part of.
It's a long, long season in basketball.
Right.
I mean, I know that a loss like this feels that way because it wasn't expected and because it was at home. That's what changes the narrative. And it also, you don't want it to be one of 3. Like I said, you don't want it to be a 3-loss loss. So, but there's a lot. There's a lot that is right there still for Auburn to accomplish. That this game changes nothing.
Player of the game. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on it. Miles Kelly. Any pushback on that? Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Great. Anybody in live chat, if you don't think the player of the game is Miles Kelly, let us know. Very curious of that one. All right. What is Auburn's record over the next 5 games? As we say every time, and as we said earlier, tough stretch. Tough stretch. Somehow the live chat is talking about how Bruce Pearl's leaving Auburn. Like, what is happening? What is going on? People that think he's going to Indiana. It's wild. Okay. At Vandy, at Alabama, host Arkansas, host Georgia, host Ole Miss. I think Auburn goes 4-1.
So do I. I think they go 4-1. I think that I'm going to tell you right now that if Auburn had won this game today, I almost would have been leaning towards 3-2 during that 5-game stretch. I really
You're buying the we needed a loss type thing.
No, I'm saying that law of averages and the way teams bounce back and good teams losing 2 games in a row. I think that I'm not saying you needed it, but I think it changes the narrative or changes the outcomes a little bit. I believe Auburn will go 4-1 down this next 5 as well. And I think that this no loss at home to almost double digits is a good loss. But I'm saying that if you keep winning, the more you win, the more the law of averages is going to catch up with you. So you kind of got this one out of the way against a really good team. And now the next 5, I think Auburn can recalibrate and go at least 4-1.
Yeah, sure. A lot of folks saying 5-0. Tom Crosby saying 7-0 in the live chat. Love that energy. Most people saying 4-1, agreeing with us. And if I had to pick which one they lose, if I had to predict, obviously we would say at Tuscaloosa is the most likely one. So we will see. All right. Anybody else's play tonight that we want to highlight? I want to talk about Tahad Pettiford for a second, because I do think there's going to be some negative chatter about Tahad, because there were stretches in the second half. Like, it seems like we're due like 2 possessions a game, and I may be being a bit dramatic on this, and call me out if I am. But there's a few possessions a game where Tahad brings the ball down the floor, and you just know he's not going to pass it. And sometimes he dribbles it around, then shoots it. Sometimes it's just he holds it for a second, does that jab step, and either shoots it or he attacks the basket. I want a point guard that wants the ball, and I want star freshmen that want the ball. So, like, I don't have a major issue when he does that in his style of play. And when Auburn is cold, he's the one trying to get him out of it. I don't have an issue when Tahad Pettiford does that. What's your thought on it?
I think it has to depend on inside the framework of the game. If you're nursing a lead and you're up 4 or you're up 6.
Tonight, when Auburn's cold and Florida's on a
I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it at all tonight.
Okay.
What he did tonight is what he needed to do. Again, it's in the context of the game. If Broom is absolutely abusing whoever's guarding him, and you're up 10 and Pettiford comes down and forces shots and doesn't look to get it inside. But let's be honest with people that have that narrative. Some of the sweetest, nicest, greatest passes that have come from an Auburn guard this year have come from Pettiford.
Sure.
So it's not like he does that all the time. But in this context of the game tonight, somebody had to freaking step up and grow a pair and do something.
Yeah, and whenever he shoots it, I kind of feel like it's going in. It's like, all right, well, we'll take that.
I liked what Chaney
really
Johnson did tonight. Other than that poor shot where he shot a 21-footer, I mean, he had 13 points. I thought he played. Yeah,
that
was
stone cold, and it's like 2 seconds into the shot clock, and Chaney's dropping a long 2. Like, what are we doing?
But he had 13
at that point. It just got worse.
It got worse. I mean, it snowballed. Well, he had 13. I thought he played better, especially in the second half. So a couple guys stepped up in the absence of some guys not playing their particular game. And I guess the other question is the Chad Baker-Mazar thing. It seems like every game he's going down and he's staying on the floor. And I mean, is he okay? Did they take him off just because of precaution? Obviously, they didn't need to leave him in the game at that point with 2.5 minutes left. But I hope he's okay in his status going forward for Tuesday. To see what happened to him is, I think, big.
Yeah. Any thoughts before we wrap up? You good?
No, I'm good. I think we pretty much expressed everything.
For the folks panicking, Auburn is a very good basketball team. And also, Florida's a very good basketball team. Let's don't forget that. It's not like they just somebody said, right when we were starting, that is Bruce Pearl's due to lay an egg once a season. And I'm like, maybe, but this wasn't it. Like,
that wasn't the egg. No,
that wasn't laying the egg.
No, it wasn't
against the 6th-ranked team in the country who, I mean, I'm curious. I'm actually fascinated to see what the polling's going to be. I mean, they've got a tough job to do.
I'm going to tell you something right now, too, and this may not come to fruition. I will say one more thing. Duke plays Clemson tonight, and I believe that game is in Little John Arena in Clemson. And Clemson is 6-0, at home against ranked opponents their last 6 games. Don't automatically, if Auburn can lose at home to, Florida, and I get it, Clemson's not Florida. Little John Arena is not an easy place to play. Duke going on the road tonight. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Even this many people hanging out with us in a loss is super, super cool, super, super humbling. So thank you guys so much for all of that. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, and then I'm with you twice a week. And after, we'll be back together Tuesday night.
That's right. That's right. When Auburn takes on the Doors. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're listening on audio after the fact, please subscribe, leave a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.